How many of us live in the house where we were born? If not physically born there, at least the one where our parents brought us to straight from the hospital. Perhaps some of you currently live in the home you were brought to after birth, but it's unlikely many of you, if any, live in the house where you were actually born. That's because America is a nation of migrants. From the very first immigrants, Native Americans were just the first wave, to the first colonists through the great migrations westward to the upward mobility movements of today, we are constantly on the move. Actually, that's the history of the world. The idea that any people or nation has remained unmoved since creation is nonsense. Since the Tower of Babel in Genesis 12, humans have been moving. Pick a continent, any continent, and dig deep enough into the history of the current residents of any area, and you will find a move event. Often it's displayed in their history as a boast of the former residents they drove out to take the land. And if we dig deep enough, we'll discover that the ones driven out had done the same to another group before them. Any exception is extremely rare. That's one of the reasons God's promise to David was unusual, in that he promised to plant Israel in place and not let their enemies move them anymore. And I will establish a place for my people Israel and will plant them, so that they may live in their own place and not be disturbed again. Nor will malicious people oppress them any more as previously, even from the day that I appointed judges over my people Israel, and I will give you rest from all your enemies. 2 Samuel 7 verses 10 and 11. But even that promise was temporary and conditional, because they fell into sin and God allowed enemies to rise. Just 400 years later, God dispersed Israel throughout the world at the hands of Babylon. That's because God had a greater plan for his people, a plan for a spiritual nation, his church, living in anticipation of an eternal home in heaven, not here on earth. Let's not get caught up in this false belief of a permanent earthly existence or even a 1,000-year earthly reign of Christ. If we're in Christ today, we're in his kingdom. We're subject to King Jesus. We're headed for heaven, where we will dwell eternally and will finally stop our restless wandering. Are you in Christ? That's an important question to ask. If not, the King is calling you to come to him, to embrace the rest you so desperately need. Please hear his call and come to King Jesus. Well, thanks for watching today's Morning Minutes in the Bible. Until tomorrow, this is James McClenny hoping you have a great day.